Mitch, she thought, and swayed a little. Her bridegroom, her beloved, the father of her 3-year-old son, Noah, her lifelong friend, and Trace's. Mitch had traipsed off to war on Trace's heels like a child dancing after a piper, certain of right and glory, and he'd died for that sweet, boyish naivete of his. "I've got nothing to say to you," Bridget said to him. He took off his hat and swiped it once lightly against his thigh, in a gesture that might have been born of either annoyance or simple frustration, the distinction being too fine to determine. "Well," he replied, in a quiet voice that meant he was digging in to outstubborn her, should things come to that pass. "I've got plenty to say to you, Bridget McQuarry, and you're going to hear me out." His gaze strayed over her shoulder to take in the cabin, such as it was. The roof of the small stone structure had fallen in long before Bridget and Skye, her younger sister, and little Noah had finally arrived at Primrose Creek just 2 months before, after wintering at Fort Grant, a cavalry installation at the base of the Sierras. Right away, Bridget had taken the tarp off the Conestoga and draped it over the center beam, but it made a wretched substitute. Rain caused it to droop precariously, and often dripped through the worn cloth to plop on the bed and table and sizzle on the stove. Trace let out a low whistle. "I didn't get here any too soon," he said. Just then, Skye came bounding around the side of the cabin, an old basket in one hand, face alight with pleasure. She was 16, Skye was, and all the family Bridget had left, except for her son and a pair of snooty cousins who'd passed the war years in England. No doubt, Christy and Megan had been sipping tea, having themselves fitted for silken gowns and playing lawn tennis, while Bridget and their granddaddy tried in vain to hold on to the farm in the face of challenges from Yankees and rebels alike. Good riddance, she thought. The last time she'd seen Christy, the two of them had fought in the dirt like a pair of cats. They'd been like oil and water the whole of their lives, Christy and Bridget, always tangling over something. "Trace!" Skye whooped, her dark eyes shining. He laughed, scooped her into his arms, and spun her around once. "Hello, monkey," he said, with a sort of fond gruffness in his voice, before planting a brotherly kiss on her forehead. Bridget stood to one side, watching and feeling a little betrayed. She and Skye were as close as two sisters ever were, but if you looked for a resemblance, you'd never guess they were related. Just shy of 21, Bridget was small, with fair hair and skin, and her eyes were an intense shade of violet. Irish blue, Mitch had called them. She gave an appearance of China doll fragility, most likely because of her diminutive size, but this was deceptive. She was as agile and wiry as a panther cub, and just about as delicate. Skye, for her part, was tall, a late bloomer with long, gangly legs and arms. Her hair was a rich chestnut color, her wide-set eyes a deep and lively brown, her mouth full and womanly. She was awkward and somewhat dreamy, and though she was always eager to help, Bridget usually just went ahead and did most things herself. It was easier than explaining, demonstrating, and then redoing the whole task when Skye wasn't around. "You'll stay, won't you?" Skye demanded, beaming up at Trace. "Please, say you'll stay." He didn't so much as glance in Bridget's direction, which, she assured herself impotently, was a good thing for him. "I'm not going anywhere." Behind the cabin, in the makeshift corral Bridget had constructed from barrels and fallen branches, the new horse neighed. He was her one great hope of earning a living, that spectacular black and white paint. She'd swapped both oxen for him barely a week before, when a half-dozen Paiute braves had paid her an alarming visit. His name, rightfully enough, was Windfall, for she'd certainly gotten the best of the trade. Granddaddy would have been proud. People would pay good money to have their mares bred to a magnificent horse like Windfall. Her little mare, Sis, tethered in the grassy shade of a wild oak tree nearby, replied to the stallion's call with a companionable nicker. A muscle pulsed in Trace's jaw.